Hello, this is Coop.
Hey, Coop, it's Travis Tritt.
Travis, what's up, man? How are you today?
I'm doing great, buddy. How you doing?
Phenomenal. I'm even more phenomenal now that I get a chance to talk to you. First and foremost, I'm a huge fan. I've been lucky enough to go to at least a dozen of your shows, and I've seen everything from you riding out on a Harley on stage to the acoustic shows with just you and the acoustic guitar in that stool. And so it's an honor to talk to you. I'm really pumped about this album, Set in Stone, first one in almost 14 years with new music on it. Can we talk about that and sort of this has got to be a big deal for you?
It really is, man. I've never been very good at multitasking. So, back in the beginning of my career, I had to switch focus from one thing to another, meaning that if I was getting ready to do a new album, I had to switch my focus to writing that album or writing the songs for that album, and then stay laser focused on that. And then I would move from that to being focused on recording that album. And then when the album was completed, I would be focused on going back out on tour and trying to do the best shows that I possibly could do. And about a little over a decade ago, I made a conscious decision that I wanted to focus on the performance aspect. I was in the fortunate position of having enough hit songs to be able to go out and do a 90-minute or 2-hour show or longer that was packed with nothing but hit songs that people recognized. Mm-hmm. And so I really put a focus on that for the last over a decade. And it wasn't until I hired a new manager, Mike Cheese Brown, back a couple of years ago, and he started talking to me about the possibility of recording a new album, writing and recording a new album, and how important it was to not only feed the fans that have been with me for so long, but also to try to bring in, maybe new fans that had never really been familiar with my music that much in the past. And so then we started talking with Dave Cobb, who had produced so many great albums and still is producing some of the greatest albums of anybody. Everybody from Chris Stapleton to Sturgill Simpson to Brandy Carlisle, and the list goes on and on. And so we started talking about it, and it really became an exciting idea in my mind, and it was an absolute pleasure to get back in the studio again. I felt like I'd never left.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure to listen. I got a chance to preview it today, and of course it comes out May 7th. We got a new single, Set in Stone, which is one of my favorites on the album. And it's interesting because I like a lot of the songs that you wrote on the album. This is one of them that you actually didn't, but there's lines in like the choruses, and they say we've come a long way, but I say it's a little too far from when the world turns slower and you could smoke in a bar. And it's just, man, it hit me. It resonates with me. As someone who's a songwriter and performer, how do you pick a song that you didn't write? I mean, it's really got to check all the boxes, I would imagine, right? For you to cut a song you didn't write?
Well, years ago, I heard Dan Fogelberg gave one of the greatest quotes that I've ever heard, and I've stolen that or borrowed that quote throughout my entire career. And the quote was simply this: "I make music that honestly and objectively moves me. And I feel like if I can make music that honestly and objectively moves me, I know that it's going to move other people." So if I didn't write a particular song, but a song strikes me or it hits me someplace down deep where I live, then that automatically becomes a song that I want to pass along to other people, because I know, once again, if it's moved me honestly, it's going to move other people. And I think there's so many people out there, especially in today's world, they're just looking for something that's real.
Yeah.
And they're looking for something that comes from real experiences. And one of the other things that I loved about Smoking a Bar was the fact that over the past, 15 years or so, I've had a ton of people that have come up to me or talked to me or gotten in touch with me via social media, and they've said, we like a lot of the stuff that's out there today in country music, but we really miss the stories that country music used to tell.
Yes.
Because that's really the root of country music is that as far as telling stories that people can relate to, I think country music as a genre has been the best genre at storytelling of any genre in music, and continues to be if we allow ourselves to connect to our roots. And so then over the course of course, the last year or so, where we've seen so much craziness and division and just unsettling feelings amongst the public between the election year and pandemic and all these other things, and people have come up to me in the last 12 to 18 months and said, man, wouldn't it be nice if we could just go back to a time that seemed just a little bit simpler and where people tended to trust each other a little bit more, and we had a little bit more contentment with our lives and the things that we did on a day in, day out basis. Wouldn't it be nice if we could go back to a little bit more of that? So as soon as I heard the song Smoking a Bar, my friend Tim Montana was one of the writers on that song, and as soon as he wrote it with a couple other guys in Nashville, he sent the song to me and he said, I just want you to hear the song I just wrote, and with a couple other people, and I just wanted you to hear it. And as soon as I heard it, man, it just checked all the boxes for me of something that I could relate to, and I know a lot of other people can relate to as well. And I texted him back immediately, and I said, man, this is a great song. Please let me record this. I want to put this on my album.
Wow.
And he agreed, and I'm so glad that he did. I'm very, very proud to be associated with the song, because I think it is a song that is relatable to a whole lot of people out there, and I think they're going to get the same feeling out of it when they hear it that I got out of it the first time I heard it.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that I heard it, and of course I saw the performance on the Opry not too long ago as well, and it really struck a chord with me, and really all your music's done that. I mean, we can go from TROUBLE, which makes me want to party and grab a beer, and we get to Where Corn Don't Grow, and it makes me think about, leaving home and then missing home and all of that. All of your music does that, and I think that's why you've been so successful, and it's clear in this album as well. And that's one of the other things I want to talk about, because one of the new popular things today in all genres of music is not really doing an album. It's putting out 4 or 5 singles every couple of weeks and just seeing what they do. And look, for me, and I'm sure for you as well, I love an album. It's like a book. You've got to read it, or in this case, listen to it from beginning to end to get the story. Is it something that you knew right from the beginning? We're doing a full album. Did you have any pushback from anybody saying, why don't we try doing this new thing that everyone's doing? How do you feel about that, Travis?
Well, for me, it was simply doing an album is the only way I've ever done it. Right. And it's the only way I've really known how to do it. Now, that's not to say that at some point in my career that I may get to a point to where I'm just releasing singles, but it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, And for me, it was all about just going in and, once again, concentrating with laser focus on putting together not just 1 or 2 songs as a single here or there, but putting together a body of work the way that I've always done it, and then record that album that hopefully has a common vein that runs through it, and then we can release those songs however they want to, or however we want to, over the course of the next, year and a half, whatever. But that just comes from the nature of doing it that way for my entire career. And I still think there's a lot to be said. There's something about the magic for me. I remember when I was young, the excitement of going out and buying a new album from somebody that I really, really loved. And of course, back in those days, it was vinyl, and not only just buying the album and listening to the music, but coming home and opening up the album itself and looking on the back and reading all the credits and reading the lyrics that were inside, and to a certain extent even CDs did that, in a lot of cases. But there's just something about that for me as a music listener all my life. That was just something that is really special, and I think it's still special today. So, I love the concept of doing albums, and as long as I possibly can, I'm going to try to keep that tradition alive. I just think there's something really kind of special and magical about it.
I want to talk about keeping on the album theme. I read somewhere, actually it might have been a documentary that I saw, that said the first album you remember loving was This Is Roger Miller, and of course the song King of the Road is on that album. Now, I read that song is actually the first song you ever made money off of, right? In Marietta. Yeah. Is that correct? Tell me that story.
That is correct. The first album I ever owned as a kid, as a child, this goes all the way back to, I'm going to tell how old I am now. This goes all the way back to the mid 60s.
Yep.
But the first album that my parents ever bought for me was This Is Roger Miller, and I sat down and listened to that album, and there was so much great stuff. I mean, Do Wackadoo and King of the Road and all these great songs on this album. So I learned at a very early age, I learned how to snap my fingers too. And that was one of the big parts. If you recall that song, Trailers for Sale or Rent, Rooms to Rent 50 cents. And he was snapping his fingers in the background. Well, I learned how to do that at a very young age. So anytime anybody would see me, like in a grocery store or a department store or whatever, people would come up to me and ask me, "Hey, sing me that song. Sing me that song." And I wasn't really shy back then when it came to music. I'd break right into it, and I'd start snapping my fingers. Trailers for sale or rent, and they would give me, like a quarter, or whatever.
Sure.
And it was just, man, it's like, dude, this is cool. I could be rich.
Well, it's funny because, and it ended up happening, right? And so you, in this same interview, I thought it was so interesting because then you talked about how now you go to the honky tonks, right? And the clubs and all of that. And you were talking about competing against the distractions there. You learned some things that you still use to this day. And I wonder from a fan, from someone who likes to go to the honky tonk and have a couple beers and enjoy some really great country music. What is that like? What did you learn on those stages and how to really captivate an audience? Because you certainly do it well.
Well, thank you. I started out playing in little bars and clubs and honky tonks and beer joints and biker bars and pool halls and bowling alleys and all these different places. And I started out, it was just me and an acoustic guitar. And not only every night, I'm competing against a bunch of stuff. I'm competing against, first of all, a bunch of people that are drinking, so alcohol, I'm competing with that. I'm competing with people trying to, eat dinner. I'm competing with every place that I played had something going on in the background. Mm-hmm. It was either a bowling alley or they had just about every club I played. They had pool tables or pinball machines or dart boards or something where there was, something going on in the background. And after a very short period of time, I realized that, man, I've got to do something to get these people's attention, because I was just kind of background music and that they weren't really paying attention to. And somewhere around the early 80s, when I first started doing that, I went down to, there was a music store. The biggest music store around me was a place called the Music Mart in Smyrna, Georgia. And I went down there and I bought a brand new Fender Twin amplifier, and I bought a Stratocaster guitar, and I didn't even know that they made these back then. Didn't see too many of them, but I bought 100-foot long guitar cord. And so I brought that back to my stage, and as soon as I did, the first two sets, every night I played from, in most cases, I played Monday through Saturday, 8 p.m. till 2 a.m., 8 p.m. till 3 a.m. on Saturdays.
Wow.
And so I would play the first two sets from 8 till about 10. First two sets would be just me and an acoustic guitar. By that third set, I pulled out that Stratocaster and that plugged it into that Fender Twin amp and used that 100-foot guitar cord, and I would literally run out and jump on top of people's tables, in front of me. I'm kicking empty beer bottles over and, the whole deal. I'm having a ball, but I'm getting their attention, and they had no choice. Yep. And I learned from that how to, first of all, get people's attention. I learned so many lessons. I learned if something goes wrong, if a microphone stops working, or if you break a guitar string, or whatever, I learned how to keep the stage patter going, and tell jokes and be funny, and while I'm fixing the problem at the same time. And as hard as those days were for me, I would do it all over again, because I learned so much. And I actually feel sorry for the young acts that are coming out, or that have come out in recent years, that never have had those experiences. Yeah. Because if something goes wrong on stage, they are petrified. Yep. They're in shock, and they don't know how to deal with that. But if you played all those clubs and bars and honky-tonks like I did, you know exactly how to deal with that, and it becomes second nature. And you know how to, the pacing of a set list, you know how to make that happen, take people for a ride, and you know where to go up and where to go down, and where to play the up-tempo songs, and then where to play the ballads. And it just teaches you so much. And like you said, I still draw on all of those lessons today. Every single time I go on stage, I still draw from those lessons that I learned in those early days, playing those places that were tiny by example, but they taught me so much.
Well, now you got me hankering for live shows, Travis. That's just not fair.
Oh yeah, I think we're all hankering for live shows, man. After being locked down virtually as a business for a year, I've been luckier than most. I've had the opportunity every now and then to go out and play, a few shows, some with my bands. Most of them have been solo acoustic. But the thing that I've found in the past 12 months is that the fans are longing for that experience as much as the artists that really love doing it.
Yes.
We miss it as artists. If you're an artist, if you're an old road dog like me, and that's what you do. You play on the road. That's what you do. And you're used to doing, in my case, in a normal year, I was doing, 130 shows a year. And to all of a sudden go from 130 shows to virtually nothing it's devastating just from an emotional standpoint, because that's what I do for a living. That's what I enjoy. There is no experience in the world for me as an artist that supersedes being on stage and performing and getting that big ball of energy going that goes from the stage to the audience and then gets kicked back to the stage, back and forth like a beach ball. There's nothing in the world. I've done a bunch of drugs in my life, and there is no drug that has ever surpassed the feeling that I get when I'm playing music and getting to do that. And I found that in the few shows that we were able to do in 2020 and earlier in 2021 this year, the audience is longing for that too, because they realize that you can have all the virtual concerts that you want to, and those are cool and those are fine, but there is nothing in this world that replaces the experience of going to a concert and hearing live music from your favorite artists, performers. There's just nothing that replaces that, and that's the reason why we've got to get back to it. We've got the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think obviously you hit it on the head as far as it being kind of a partnership thing. Whereas as a fan myself, I couldn't play a lick of music if I tried. But there's nothing like being in an audience. And specifically, I remember that acoustic show that you did. I was in Virginia Beach. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. And you did "Help Me Hold On." Just you and the guitar, and it's amazing how I got chill bumps, and I look around and I'm like, man, there are thousands of people here who could easily be making noise right now, and every single one of them is completely quiet and completely mesmerized, because that's the experience, and it's something that I think you're right, our souls need deep down.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, there's nothing I love more than playing on stage with my band, and out of that 130 shows, I do a year, 95 or so of those shows are with my band, and I love getting on stage with them. But for the rest of those shows that are solo acoustic, there's really something special about that, because I don't consider those performances to be shows, really. They don't feel like shows to me. They feel much more intimate. It's kind of like, I've said it many times, it's kind of like being in my living room and playing music for my family and for my friends, and they're listening to every single word. Plus, it gives me an opportunity as a singer and a songwriter. A lot of these songs are songs that I wrote, and I wrote them on guitar, just me and a guitar. So I get a chance to not only perform the songs, but I get a chance to perform the songs the way that I wrote them. And I think there's something special about that. It's something obviously special for me to get to perform them that way, because I remember it takes me right back in my memory to exactly where I was in my life when I wrote that particular song. But it also takes, I think, the audience back to exactly where they were in their lives the first time they heard it. Yep. And to be able to hear it just stripped down, no band, no distractions, just hear the lyric and the vocal and the guitar. There's something really, really special about that, and we've gotten a lot of really positive response to that, which I'm extremely grateful and thankful for.
It's certainly one of the best shows I've ever seen in my entire life. It truly, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, it's really just unbelievable.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much for saying so.
We got the album Set in Stone. It comes out May 7th. 11 new tracks on it. The single Set in Stone we're going to play here in a little bit. I got one more question for you. A lot of people, when you ask them what's the number one country tune, no matter when you hear it, you crank it up to 11. And they say it's Trouble. So what would it be for you? No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, if this song comes on, Travis Tritt cranks it up.
That is a thrill. That's always a thrill, man. Just to hear something and just want to turn it up to 11, and it makes you feel good. You know, I've been lucky in my career. I've had quite a few songs that have been that way, and anytime I hear that, people have asked me, do you get tired of hearing people talk about certain songs? The answer is no. I don't. You know, if somebody says, man, I set my alarm every morning to Great Day to Be Alive is my wake-up music, because it just puts me in a good mood. For songs like that, or songs like Trouble that make people just want to jump up and dance, and it makes them, no matter what mood you're in, it makes them feel a little bit better, or puts them in a better mood. Dude, what more can you ask for? And it also makes me extremely aware and humbled by what a powerful, powerful thing good music really is.
Yep. Amen.
So, once again, I'm just honored to be part of this business, and honored to be in a position where I can hopefully pass along some of my emotions and some of the things that I've felt in my life by performing music that means something to me, and just doing what country music has always been, which is 3 chords and the truth.
Yes, sir. Travis Tritt, thank you so much. Again, Set in Stone, May 7th, the album, or the single Set in Stone, Smoke in a Bar, rather. I don't know what I'm doing. Smoke in a Bar is the single. Set in Stone is the album, May 7th. Travis, thank you so much. It's an honor to chat with you, and hopefully we'll be able to see a show soon.
Thanks, Coop. I appreciate it much.